Welcome to tonight's video on Unit 1, Topic 1, talking about numbers, absolute value, exponents, and scientific notation. So today, the first thing, let's talk about the different numbers. So here's an example. This first one, an example of what we would call natural numbers. Let's try that again. Of natural numbers. And natural numbers are basically positive whole numbers. Then we have whole numbers, which are basically all the natural numbers, including 0. And then we have integers. And integers are positive and negative whole numbers. Remember that for integers, there are no decimals or fractions. All right, then we have rational numbers, right? Rational numbers, and that is any number that can be written as a fraction. And remember, decimals are fractions, right? Decimals are fractions. Then we have irrational. And irrational basically is any non-terminating and non-repeating decimal. All right, so like pi is irrational because it's a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. Also, any square root that's not a perfect square is a irrational number. If it's the square root of 16, then it would be a rational number because that's 4. All of the above are real numbers, right? All of the above are real numbers. Basically, a real number is any rational or irrational number. And then you have complex numbers. Complex numbers are any numbers that have both real and imaginary parts. Oh, sorry. Let's boot that back up. Okay, so both real and imaginary parts, that is complex. If we make a diagram here, and I know there's a Venn diagram, I'm going to make more of a chart. Like at the top is the complex number system. Complex, you have real and you have imaginary. And then real numbers, you have rational and you have irrational. And then for rational, you have whole numbers. Actually, sorry. Let me redo that real quick. For rational, you have integers, right? And then integers, you have whole numbers. And then whole numbers, you have natural numbers. And you have 0, right? So that's kind of the chart for the number systems, how they kind of flow. All right, so if we look at this one here, why don't you go ahead and try this one on your own, and then pause the video, and then I'll go through the answers. All right, so if you look, the answers here, the natural numbers, 3 and 7, positive whole numbers. The whole numbers, 0, 3, and 7, because it's basically natural numbers plus 0. And then the integers, negative 100, 3, 0, negative 21, 7. Rational numbers, so all of these are rational numbers. 0.25 is rational because you can write it as 1/4. Irrational, pi and negative e, because those are numbers that are non-repeating, non-terminating decimals. And then the real numbers are all of those except for 3 plus 5i, because that is complex. All right, the next topic is absolute value. Remember, absolute value in the 5th, 6th grade version, you probably heard your teacher say that it makes a number positive. And in Algebra 1, it's a number's distance from 0. And so that means that, like, that's why it's positive, because, like, if you have 0 here, and you have negative 2, and you have positive 2, the absolute value of 2 and negative 2 are both 2, because they're 2 units away from 0. All right, so what that means algebraically as a rule, that the answer to the absolute value is the same if x is greater than or equal to 0. Like if you put in absolute value of 3 is 3, right? That is the same. However, if it's a negative number, then it's going to be the opposite of what you put in. So for example, here, absolute value of 3 is 3. That's the same. Absolute value of negative 3 is 3. That's the opposite of what you put in. So here, the exact value, the absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So then the negative sign there makes it negative 7. Here, pi minus 3, well, what you have to ask yourself is pi minus 3 a positive number or a negative number? And it is a positive number, so therefore pi minus 3 is going to be the same as what you put in. It'll be pi minus 3. 7 minus pi is also positive because 7 is bigger than pi, so therefore when you put it in, it's going to give you the same thing. Square root of 7 minus square root of 3 is going to be a positive number because the square root of 7 is bigger than the square root of 3. So that means it's going to be rad 7 minus rad 3. However, this one's going to be negative because the square root of 5 is less than the square root of 11. So therefore, it's going to be the opposite of that, which means when I distribute the negative, it's the square root of negative square root of 5 plus square root of 11. So, expressing the distance between two numbers using absolute value, remember distance is a subtraction. So here you just say the negative 2 minus 17 absolute value. Here it's negative 19 minus negative 4 absolute value. You do not need to simplify. So basically you just take the absolute value of the difference. That's how you express distance. All right, so that concludes topic number 1, which is absolute value and the number systems. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, feel free to come see me during iBlock or before school.